security. All stations, all stations, all stations. This is Falmouth Coast Guard, Falmouth Coast Guard, Falmouth Coast Guard. A new local navigation warning. A 19 metre motor vessel has sunk off Laborna Cove in position 50 degrees 03.55 minutes north, 005 degrees 32.95 minutes west. I say again, in position 50 degrees 03.55 minutes north, 005 degrees 32.95 minutes west. Vessels are to navigate with caution in this area. Falmouth Coast Guard out.
It's me again. This morning's lesson is all about radios. It made me think about it because we had that pan this morning, and I thought you might be interested to know how the radios work on the boat. Obviously a really important part of safety for us on board. We've got two radios. The one down below, and that's the one that I video when I'm listening to the Maydays and the security announcements, is, what's the one down below?
The DSC is a digital selective calling radio with about 25 watts of power.
Which is a VHF, a more powerful radio, and we have that on when we're at sea. It's constantly on channel 16, which is the emergency channel. Something I learned the other day was that very often somebody will call up, often the Coast Guard or just a vessel out at sea, and will say, "This is Falmouth Coast Guard on channel 16." And I said to Laurie, why are they saying on channel 16? Because we know it's on channel 16, that's what we're listening to. But you can listen to several channels at the same time, so they're just making sure that you know which one they're on so that you can reply. We also have a handheld radio which is less powerful, and this is something that we will upgrade for our next trip, definitely. This one we use when we're coming into port, for example, and we need to speak to the harbour master or the marine staff to book a berth, or if we need to speak to another vessel when we're out at sea. But we'd quite like to get one that goes with the big radio down below. So in terms of safety calls, emergency calls, obviously the one that everybody knows is the Mayday, which is the most serious one, and that is only ever issued, you only ever call for a Mayday if there's a grave and imminent danger. So normally that means to personnel, but obviously if a ship is sinking as well, then that's a pretty serious thing. So that's a Mayday. The Coast Guard has said themselves that they're quite happy for people to ring 999 and ask for the Coast Guard. The next one down from that is a pan, which is again fairly serious, but it's not as serious as a Mayday. And a pan might be something like
Loss of steering.
Yeah, loss of steering, or
Engine failure on a yacht.
Engine failure if you're not likely to go onto rocks imminently. So not imminent danger to life. And then the last one that I've just videoed just now, which was an update on the earlier pan, is a security, which always really impresses me because they've got that information, they're passing that on to sailors. And as I made the point earlier, that will also be on the charts fairly quickly, so that sailors know to avoid that area, know that there's some kind of obstruction there. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think was I going to say something else about radios?
You're going to talk about licensing.
So every boat has, well, I'll hand over to the captain for this one.
So among the ship's documents, one of the things that we have to have is a thing called the ship's radio certificate, and that is a license for this vessel for that radio, and it's a registration of this vessel's installation, so that when we broadcast, we've got a call sign that's associated with the station, and what's called an MMSI, which is an acronym which tells everyone who's using the radio exactly what radio is broadcasting, a bit like a phone number or a SIM number on the phone, and it means that they can locate the vessel's registration from the radio. And so not only does the radio have to be licensed, but the users have to be licensed. So I've got a very old school radio operator's license, and also a thing called a short range certificate, which is a modern amateur radio ticket. Jill's also got the short range certificate.
I've got the short range certificate, obviously I haven't got
That
the
just
professional
shows you-
one. But yeah, it was just, again, another sobering moment this morning, and made us think about how lucky we are to have the RNLI. The RNLI boat actually went whizzing past us this morning. Was it 2 of them, was
The
it?
inshore was looking for the occupant.
The inshore would have been looking for the occupant, so they went whizzing past us early this morning, obviously on their way round to that vessel, and we just feel very, very lucky to have them always.
They're heroes.
They are heroes, they're absolute heroes. And I mentioned yesterday the Penley lifeboat disaster, which some of you may remember in the early 80s. It's a horrific story, and an absolute illustration of what heroes they are, because these guys went out in a wooden lifeboat. It was an all-weather lifeboat, but we were just saying that was one of the events that changed the the lifeboats that we now have. The all-weather lifeboats are self-righting, is that the word?
They're now absolute all-weather.
They really are all weather, so that you can't sink them. They're strapped in, harnessed in, and if the boat goes over, it will right itself. These guys went out in hurricane winds, 90 knots of wind. I mean, I just can't imagine it. The wave height was something like 18 metres, just amazing. They did manage to get alongside this vessel. It was a vessel whose engines had failed, and they were drifting towards the Cornish rocks, which we all know are well dodgy. And they got alongside. They managed to rescue 4 people from on board. Sadly, they then made the decision not to take those people back to shore, but to go back and have another go, and that's when all communication was lost with them, and everybody on board, the crew of the ship and the crew of the lifeboat, were all lost. Horrific, really, really awful story. So we're just always really grateful, and we take safety really, really seriously. You know, it is a possibility. We've just heard this morning that this boat round the corner sank. We've no idea what happened, but it's really benign conditions. You can see this morning we haven't even got the sails up. There's no wind. There's no wave height to worry about. It's absolutely beautiful. Any number of things could have happened. It could be that he was at anchor, that his anchor dragged and he went onto the rocks. It could be that one of his through-hull fittings failed and the boat started filling with water. It could be anything, and we're always aware that those are possibilities. We don't like to think of them, and as I said before, going to the Titanic Museum was maybe not the best thing to do, but yeah, that's why we're sitting here like this with our life jackets on, and we do check things regularly, and maintenance on the boat is really important. We do maintain the boat very thoroughly. It does always worry me that there are through-hull fittings, which are basically holes through the boat for various things, for pipes and things going through, and there's one in forward in the boat, and when we've got a pack of bungs next to it just in case it fails, which I don't even want to think about. And you had forgotten something. Did you know that there's no such thing as the phrase over and out? Everyone always says over and out. That doesn't exist when you're talking on the radio. It's either over or it's out. So you say over if you're expecting a reply, and you say out when you're not expecting a reply. That's as simple as that.